What is going on, everyone? Welcome into the Dynasty Pod. Today, we are going to be breaking down this 2023 rookie running back class. And let's be honest, that's the meat and potatoes of fantasy football. Running back, flashiest position. And this is a great class this year, Sam. So a lot of great guys to break down.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think we were talking about in the pre-show, I think there's 12 guys here. I mean, we were going to talk about 10. We pushed it to 12 because I think there's 12 guys here. I'd be happy to draft, honestly, depending on landing spot, of course, but just based on what I saw that I think could, be something in the NFL. Not every one of these guys is going to be your workhorse, bell cow type running back, but I think that there's a lot of different types of role players, different types of running backs that can get you fantasy points at some point in their career in this draft. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun to see where these guys land. We're going to keep doing a bunch of mocks in this season, kind of trying out different landing spots, which I'm excited about, especially now that I've actually watched some film on these guys.
Yeah, and we took a quick little consensus of our guys, and we ranked them out that way, and that's how we'll be doing the 12 guys. And we've got a good amount of similarities, but there are some big differences we have. So it'll be nice when we get to those to kind of debate and see where we're very different, because you always want to have different viewpoints with certain guys. Even if you love them or hate them, you want to have other people's opinions to see, why you're so far off from other people. So it'll be very interesting. And we did the quarterbacks in ascending order from our top to bottom. So let's start now. We know, everyone knows who our 1 and 2 is. I think it's fairly consensus for most people,
Yeah.
but we'll save the 3, 4, 5. You'll have to wait until later in the episode, and we'll start with our 12 here. So let's start off. Let's start off here with Kenny McIntosh out of Georgia, and for me, he is my running back 11 and your running back 10. So we're pretty close. Once again, we said that our top 12 here are all guys that we would actually think have some value whatsoever when it comes to draft time, depending on landing spot and position, obviously. But what do you like about Kenny McIntosh, and what do you dislike, Sam?
Yeah, so to me, this is another guy in kind of the mold of James Cook from last year. To me, I saw somebody who looked like a receiver out there. He was running routes. He runs good routes. He's open. He catches the ball in stride. He to me, really looks like kind of your running back / wide receiver type player, like James Cook or Cordell Patterson or somebody like that. So to me, that's why he's kind of lower, is because I didn't really see anything that was this guy's going to be a 3-down back. But a really capable 3rd down back, I think. And we know NFL teams look for those type of receiving backs. Let's see, what else did I have? I thought he puts in good effort blocking as well, which is important for somebody who's going to be in on 3rd down, both at the line of scrimmage and downfield. But yeah, I thought he had good size, So, overall, really just kind of looking at that kind of 3rd down back type of archetype, but did that really well. So that's kind of what I saw.
Yeah, and when you look at his speed and acceleration are really good.
Yeah, and definitely. I agree.
Yeah, so everything that you said I completely agree with. The pass catching is great. For me, he's not a physical back. He's not, like you said, he's not going to be a 3-down back. Not going to get that 1st, 2nd down. So it's all about his landing spot. If he goes to a place that can consistently use him, because we've even seen this year with James Cook, he hasn't really gotten too much time to shine. So, for those receiving backs, it really is, where do they go? Exactly. How much do they get used? So nice little guy there. And then next up, we got Roschon Johnson, your running back 7 and my running back 13. So I'm the one pushing him down here. So let me kind of just explain to you why I'm a little bit lower on Roschon. And I'll start by saying he's a very physical and tough back. He's very tough to wrap up. So even if you get a hand or two on him, you're going to want multiple defenders taking him down. So that's the stuff to like about him. For me, I didn't see that top speed. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
there's big play. And obviously he was the backup to Bijan Robinson, who's the running back one in this class. So we didn't get to see too much. And as you alluded to, Sam, in our pre-show,
Yeah.
when you look at his film, he's doing this against some of the weaker competition in college
Yeah.
football. So it's
Yeah, for
tough to
sure.
gauge on, is his production coming from weaker opponents, or is it because he is really good? So I've got some question marks on him, and maybe it's just a lack of, having too much work because he was the backup. So I do think that Roschon is a decent back. He might have good value. For me, I would say it's more of draft capital. If he gets taken in the second round, a team really likes him, because I just don't know where he's going to go at this point. I don't know if he's going to be a day two,
Mm-hmm.
day three pick. So that's where it's a little bit tough. But I see where you could like where someone could like him.
Yeah, and I think to me, this is somebody who's been like rising kind of on draft Twitter, I would say. Like, I
Yeah.
think a lot of people are kind of looking at Roschon Johnson as this kind of like sneaky third tier type running back, who you could get in a back of a second, third round of a rookie draft and get really good value. Um, and to me, yeah, I did, I saw a lot of what you said. I have hard to tackle, on here is the number one thing. So like what you were saying, like he's hard to bring down, really moves the line of scrimmage, but something, and I kind of expected that because I kind of thought, okay, he's like the thunder to Bijan's lightning on this team. He's going to kind of be a short yardage back. But like when you see some of that film for where he actually got a lot of carries, like again, admittedly against weaker competition, but he looked, I mean, electric to me. I mean, I thought he had incredible hands, incredible lateral movement. He hurdled guys. He was blocking downfield. I mean, he was doing a lot of the things that I thought I didn't even see from some of the players that are gonna be higher than Roschon. I thought he was really a complete back in a lot of ways. Had a lot of the things I look for as far as good vision, good lateral movement, good creativity, good ability to catch the ball. Those are kind of like all the things I'm looking for in a running back, in addition to what we talked about: speed and ability to move the line of scrimmage. Big speed, definitely lacking. Like I saw him get caught on long runs too.
Mm-hmm.
I see the same thing there. But just like, and then the weaker competition is kind of why he's lower for me, because it's just like I don't know how to judge that when it's against UTSA and some of these other like nobody teams. But for me, like he's definitely like a sleeper guy that if there's a good landing spot, I'd be like really excited to take him in the second round.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. So like you said, that Roschon is one of those guys rising now, but I don't think anyone has risen more recently and quickly as Chase Brown has. Maybe Zach Charbonnet is one of
yeah,
those guys, but Chase Brown is another one that he kind of came out of nowhere, and he's our next guy on the board here. And I've got him at 10. You have him at 9. So once again, we're pretty similar on this guy.
mm-hmm.
And you know, for me, and I know once again we're talking pre-show, we both came in expecting a little bit more because of how much we had heard and coming in, and
Yeah, yeah,
and
for
for
sure.
for me, I look at him as a solid player who my negative and my positive for him is he's solid and that's about it. He doesn't do anything super well. He doesn't do anything super bad. I know for you his pass catching is an issue, but I like he's quick. He's very fast to the perimeter.
Yes, very fast. I've had a
So
great speed.
so he does have really good speed, but even then I don't think it's as good speed as we'll see from other running backs further up in the board. So for me, it was just a little bit of underwhelming tape overall when I was watching him, but nothing that really says this guy is going to suck, but nothing that says this guy's going to be a superstar. And I think when it comes to it in draft time, if he gets some of the good capital, you're going to be drafting him maybe in the back of the first, early second, and I don't think what I've seen so far I like to justify that spot. But But you go ahead and tell me
Yeah.
what your thoughts are.
Yeah, so I just mentioned that Roschon is somebody I'd be kind of like excited to take in the back of a second. Honestly, from what I saw from Chase Brown, I think I'd only take him kind of if it was a value at this point. Like he's not somebody I'm excited to take anymore. He's really not. Just because like I saw like as far as running ability, really a lot of what you want to see. I thought he had great straight line speed. I thought he had like decent. Oh wait, yeah, I thought he had decent hands. Like when he caught the ball, I will talk about kind of what my issue was with catching. I thought he didn't have any issue with drops or anything like that though. Honestly, one of the best things I thought for him was I thought contact balance, stiff arm, like the ability to kind of push through for that first contact was really good for him. He looks like really dynamic, kind of moving through contact, bursting off the line of scrimmage. But yeah, for me, the biggest thing I saw was like, um, for me, I'm looking for a running back that can catch the ball without losing momentum. He's got that fluid catching motion. And for me, I continually saw Chase Brown kind of like doing the stutter step when he caught the ball, kind of stuttering, kind of turning around and then running. Like there was always like a constant deliberate motion in catching the ball, a loss of momentum. And that's like a big negative to me, especially going to the NFL, and thinking fantasy. Like fantasy, we're looking for that pass catching ability. And this is something I heard kind of listening to some podcasts about the Senior Bowl that came up in the Senior Bowl as well. That they were really down on his pass catching ability at the Senior Bowl, and they were looking for him to improve on that, and really didn't see that. So I mean, as far as guys who kind of stock went down from Senior Bowl, we talked a little bit about Rashee Rice on our last mock draft. I think Chase Brown was another one of those guys who had kind of some negative press from the Senior Bowl. So. Yeah, so that's kind of where I land on him. Again, I have him decently ranked, and overall, he's kind of in that 9-10 range for us. But as far as back to second round guys, I'm going to look for somebody with upside, and that's exciting to me. So I would probably go like Roschon over Chase Brown. I do have him ranked higher, and it sounds like a little bit opposite for you, but it's kind of like looking for who's your guy in that back end tier. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So our next guy here.
And this is a guy who's going to be available in that back end tier.
Yeah.
that you love.
Yeah. All right. So this is the first player. We're going to be talking about Kendre Miller out of TCU.
Yeah.
And this is the first player that we're going to be talking about here. That
I thought we were on the next player, so my comments might not apply to.
Kendra yeah.
I think Kendre Miller is a little bit more hyped than the one we have above him.
Yeah. So
he's probably not going to be as much of a value, but still.
Yeah. So Kendre Miller is the first player we're talking about. Where when I looked at the film, I was surprised, and in a good way. I really enjoyed what I was watching, and I really like Kendre Miller. I have him at 7, and I know you're a little bit lower on him. You're at 11, so I think this is going to be our first. I know we had a bigger gap in terms of Roschon, but I think we both have more question marks about Roschon than I have about. I don't really have too many question marks about Kendre Miller. So for me, Kendre Miller, the dude looks uber athletic. To me, just what I watched, I saw great speed, acceleration. He had very quick cuts. He has really good contact balance. And he's a tough runner. So like in terms of the body side, he looks a little lankier, but he plays smaller and tougher than someone who looks his size. And lastly, his age is 20. He's 20. So when you're talking about statistics and all that for running back breakouts, he's really young, and he had really good production, over the past 2 years at TCU. So, for me, the biggest, question mark for me, and it's not even that, it's his pass game utilization was lacking. We didn't see too much of it. So, can that transition, and could he adapt that to become a full 3-down back in the NFL? Because I think we just don't know. So it's one of those things where I'm trying to think of an example of someone who didn't have any passing game work and then went to the NFL.
Oh man, we have a great one, Kenneth Walker.
Yeah, exactly. That's who I was trying to. I couldn't remember, but yeah, Kenneth Walker is a good example. So if he can show that in the NFL, I think this could be a great player, 3-down player that you're really going to enjoy taking in drafts. So I like him, but I know you have a little bit of a hesitation on him. So
Sure.
fire away and tell me why I'm wrong.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting to see kind of where we differ. Honestly, some of these guys that we're differing on, I'm kind of excited to go back and watch some more tape on them and kind of see if I can see what you're talking about, because I think admittedly we're in a process of learning about these guys. We might get to rookie draft season and our opinions on these guys might have significantly changed, especially after we get combine results.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is like our initial kind of gut like vibe on these guys. What did we see? How do we feel? So I'm excited to kind of go back and kind of look for what you're seeing about Kendre Miller. I would say the community is kind of where you are on Kendre Miller for sure. I will say I think I'm kind of biased to put guys who aren't involved in the passing game a little bit lower. So I think that was definitely one part of it. I didn't see the passing game involvement. And for me, I didn't see the athleticism that you saw. Like I kind of saw the reverse. I saw one cut runner struggling to get through contact, not seeing like any kind of big exciting plays on tape. But I only watched kind of a couple of games of film before this episode, so I'm going to go back and watch a couple of games that I didn't watch and see if I can see what you were seeing. To me, though, I saw kind of it's actually going to be so similar to the next guy we're going to talk about. I have them ranked right next to each other. But really, I kind of saw one cut power runner, which is a good. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. That is a path to fantasy points in the NFL. That's a path to touchdowns. But to me, that kind of is more the Ronald Jones mold, and we've seen him not having a lot of success with just kind of that power running straight cut, single cut type of play. So I kind of lumped Kendre Miller and this next guy into that kind of tier for me. They're it's kind of comping to somebody a type of running back I don't typically like, but opportunity for learning. I'm excited that we're different on these guys. So
yeah, and
I will say consensus I feel comfortable with where he is. So
yeah, so these next two guys are definitely
about being different.
Yeah, without a doubt. Our biggest variance here. Both of these next two guys, we have at 4 and 12 for both of them respectively.
Yeah.
And let's talk about my guy here first because he's ranked here behind him just a little bit. So even though they're tied, my guy that I really loved watching was Israel Abanikanda. I already liked him just from the little tidbits that I had previously seen. I think when we did our early mock draft and stuff like that, he was kind of one of the guys that stood out to me early, just when I was watching some of the highlights in the early offseason of college football. And going and watching his tape it's fun, and I think the reason why, and I could be trapping myself here, so I did some pro comps, and the pro comp that just stood out to me when I watched him was Khalil Herbert. And Khalil Herbert is just one of those guys that I love already. So when you see a copy of a guy that you love, you're like, oh man, Israel Abanikanda could be that Khalil Herbert guy that no one's talking about right now. And his college production and his age, once again, fairly similar to me in terms of like Kendre Miller. I just think he's got that size, like the workhorse back size, and he can be that kind of guy. And for me, the only real question mark again is passing game. Is the very limited amount of passing work. So, but I just enjoyed watching Israel Abanikanda, and I'm going to be very interested in, like you said, the combine and seeing where he tests, because I think if he tests really well, this is a guy that can kind of shoot up to me. And I think, in no way, shape, or form are we NFL scouts, but if the NFL scouts are seeing what I'm seeing and he tests well at the combine, I think we could see some day 2 draft capital for Israel Abanikanda, and he can go to a good spot.
Yeah, 100%. I love that you're, sticking your neck out for him. For me, again, I saw something very similar to Kendre Miller, but in a negative way, So
Yeah.
like, I think you saw these two guys, you saw kind of something you liked. I saw something I didn't like. Maybe I'm hyper focused on that, so I'm kind of I'm excited to go back on these guys, but yeah, I kind of saw really his usage being mostly as a power runner. Nothing wrong with that. But for me, that's kind of an archetype I'm going to steer away from. I'm looking to try to find those three down backs
Yeah.
typically, just from a fantasy perspective. So to me, that's kind of why he was lower. But I even told you beforehand, I kind of used the Dynasty Nerds film room to find like all 22 tape for these guys, and they didn't have Abanikanda. So I had to kind of go and find some tape on YouTube for this guy.
Hmm.
And I found, a couple, but they were kind of with commentary, and so the guys who were doing the commentary didn't like him.
Yeah.
So, so I was a little bit biased by that, probably. So I'm going to go try to find some kind of non-commented tape for him. Especially seeing that you have him at 4. I
Yeah.
remember, yeah, I think you're seeing a little bit of our personal kind of leanings too, like what we're looking for in running backs. So that's why I think it's good that we have a consensus ranking, because I think probably we're hopefully balancing each other out to where these are closer to what's going to be predictive for the NFL. We hope.
Yeah. And I,
We'll
once
see. We
again,
don't have any evidence on how good we are yet.
I realize that for me, Israel Abanikanda being at 4 is a little bit more out there, as
Sure.
opposed to like I told you. We'll talk about our next guy here, Sean Tucker, who
Yeah.
when I
Yeah.
watched the tape, I just didn't see anything that I liked, and I was going crazy because I'm like, a lot of people like him.
Oh, yeah.
And then when I
he's-
saw you had him at 4, I'm like, what am I missing here? So that's just
And
sometimes.
I think that I honestly have been, like, just kind of based on vibes in mock drafts, I've kind of been low on Sean Tucker.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I don't know. Like, just in watching college football and watching a couple Syracuse games, I didn't see much. So I was not expecting to like Sean Tucker. I was expecting to have him lower than 4. So I mean, yeah, I'll go ahead and talk to him, and then we'll do the reverse. You can tell me what you don't like about him.
Yeah.
um, but for me, I thought there's a couple negatives. I thought he was a little indecisive at the line of scrimmage. I saw a lot of kind of motion, a lot of juking around trying to find a hole. I don't like that. I kind of like decisive cuts typically. So that was a little bit concerning to me. I saw him get stuck behind the line of scrimmage a lot because of that. But like as once he got going, I mean, he looked unstoppable to me. I mean, like it took so many guys to bring him down. I thought his contact balance was incredible. I thought his speed was amazing. I mean, if you could get past kind of the first layer, it looked like he was gone every time. I mean, and so to me, a comp was like he looked very Javonte Williams to me as far as contact balance and like ability to get and just kind of that lateral movement, how dynamic he was when he got into the open field. And so that was I thought it was really exciting to me. I was like, hey, like we love Javonte Williams, so like, if I'm kind of seeing that, like this is a guy I want to rank really high. I could see kind of his indecisiveness and vision being something that drags him down in the NFL a bit. But I mean, there's not very many of these guys when I watched the tape that I got really excited about, and that was Sean Tucker for me. It sounds like Abanikanda for you. So
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, I didn't really see that kind of explosiveness that you're talking about. I didn't really see a whole, a top end speed, so for me, in terms of big plays, I just don't know if we're going to see too many of those. And I think in terms of,
we could very well have just watched the wrong games for these plays.
Exactly. That's another thing.
Because I'm like I saw all big plays,
Yeah. So for me, I just, he's got some work to do in pass protection, and I really don't like that when that's one of your bigger negatives as a running back, especially as a rookie coming in, because that's going to severely limit your play time in the NFL. That's one of the biggest things for coaches.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't pass protect, you're just not going to get as much playing time. So that's one of the things. And then also his hands, I thought they weren't as solid as some of the other running backs, but it was just tough for me. like once again, I'm gonna have to go back and watch more film, and just try and wrap my head around why I'm not seeing it. And I'm not gonna force it though. If I go
Yeah,
back
for
and watch
sure.
more film, right here, this is where you're gonna get the honest takes from me. I don't back down from players
Yeah,
I like.
absolutely.
So
And if you're wrong, you're wrong.
if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And listen, there is nothing. You're not gonna get it right, with all of the players. So
Yeah,
looking back
definitely.
next year, we're gonna be wrong on some of these guys. We're gonna be right on some of them.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it goes. You're just hoping that you're going to be right more than you're wrong, and then you take what you were wrong from, you look at it, you
Mm-hmm.
learn from it, and then you try and get it
Mm-hmm.
better the next year. So obviously we're very new to this, but we like to think we know ball. So so hopefully we'll get it right and help you guys out in your fantasy drafts this year, and help you get some of those big players that can give you the championships. Uh, so nice little back and forth there from both of us with our
Yeah,
7th and
definitely.
8th ranked players. And we'll move on here now to our 6th ranked running back, which is Zach Evans. And I've got him at 6, you have him at 8. And just with the next
And I'll
guy,
say,
we
like,
also have
for
it
us,
reversed.
Sean Tucker and Abanikanda were tied. And then
Yeah.
Zach Evans and Devon Achane are tied as well for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So I know you have a little bit more concerns with Zach Evans than
Yeah.
I do. So if you wanna kind of
Yeah, I
touch
was a
on that.
little generous kind of in my ranking, honestly, given what I saw. I thought Vision, not great. Wasn't involved in the passing game.
Yep.
One cut runner. Like, kind of had one move to me, which was get to the outside. I thought he had good speed.
Yeah.
But to me, I didn't see him win if it wasn't with speed or kind of running through a massive hole. I thought he looked lazy in pass protection. I thought he looked lazy if he didn't have the ball. I just did. I just like, honestly, Zach Evans is my least favorite running back that I watched. Kind of your equivalent to Sean Tucker,
Yeah.
I was just like, I'm like, everybody loves Zach Evans, and I'm like, I didn't see. And it's like, and then I know people are like, wow, Kendre Miller looked better than Zach Evans looked for TCU. Zach Evans wasn't even really the best running back at Ole Miss. Quentin Judkins is the best running back at Ole Miss. And so I'm like, he's not really been the best running back at either school he's been at. But I read kind of other people's reads on him, and they're like dynamic, explosive cuts. I think there's a consensus that he's not used in the passing game among kind of everybody.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of a consensus weakness for him. But as far as like the explosiveness, all I saw was running to the outside every time or going through a massive hole. So I probably need to watch more tape and kind of because I want to be able to see at least I want to read kind of Dynasty Nerds does some rookie profiles where they say like here's the exact tape matching what I saw. I'm kind of excited to read that to see kind of, and then I can watch that game and kind of see where it came from. But I was scratching my head on Zach Evans, kind of like Sean Tucker for you.
Yeah, and I think if you look at how we've done these rankings so far, and what your weaknesses are and what my weaknesses are when you talk about it, I mean, for Kendre Miller, Abanikanda, and Zach Evans, for me, it's all lack of a passing game, no passing game.
Yeah,
But
right.
but that's not to
Yeah.
say. So for me, it's more of I'll take that gamble and hope that
Yeah,
develops
absolutely.
in the NFL, because I like the way you run. Like I think you're a good size. You could be a workhorse back. Like for me, Zach Evans, I think he's got great speed. I really like his speed.
Yeah,
I do think he
that
is.
was probably the biggest positive for him for me. Yeah,
I saw elusiveness when I was watching him. I thought it was hard for guys to get to him, because of that speed. So, and then I also liked, I saw him, lowering his shoulder a bunch. He wasn't afraid to be physical. So I like those guys who are elusive and gets to the outside. But if you're not afraid to be physical, that's where you can get better running in between the tackles. Whereas someone who maybe like we haven't talked about him because he's a little bit lower, but maybe like a Deuce Vaughn because he's so small, he can't be physical, won't
Yeah.
be the in between the tackle runner. So I just think the fact that he's got all of the semblances of tools to possibly put it together and become a really good back in the NFL is why I like it. Whereas you're looking at give me that guaranteed passing game value. I like a guy that can be versatile. I know will be a safe pick, a good pick. And
Yeah,
I think
you're
that's
definitely
where,
seeing that tendency for us.
yeah. So it's very different, but
And
that's
I'll say
where,
like the top four guys for us are all guys who have it all, like both of those things,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
which is probably why and I think we were our top four guys. We had the exact same ranking because of that, right?
Yeah.
So I think it'll be interesting. Anyways, I'm skipping Achane.
Yeah. So, but I mean, let's talk about Achane now. For me, Achane, I'm actually surprised you have him a little bit lower, right? You have him, or no, I have him a little bit lower. I
You
actually
have him a
like
little lower than
Achane.
me.
You have him at
Me
6. I have
too.
him at 8, but I do like Achane. And the reason why I thought you were really gonna like Achane, when I watched him, I just saw flashes of Devin Singletary.
Oh yeah,
So especially because
yeah, for sure.
he's a bit of a smaller framed player, which is one of the concerns. But I think for
I mean, Devin Singletary who can actually catch the ball. So
yeah, I mean, despite his smaller frame, he was really utilized in the goal line, at goal line situations, and I think that's a big thing that Singletary does is he's kind of used in the goal line at Buffalo, and even though he's a smaller player, and I mean with the smaller size comes the shiftiness. He's elusive, and I do think he's fast. So that's kind of what I saw in Devon Achane. I think I was a
I mean,
little
to be fair, I have him at 6, so I did really like Achane.
yeah.
That's pretty high.
So I liked Achane I think a little bit more. I think I probably before reviewing a lot of this film I would have had him ahead of Zach Evans, and maybe a little bit lower for me in terms of I didn't see the full, maybe because of his smaller frame I don't think he could be that 3 down back, and well he can't be.
Yeah.
But I do like him. I think he's a good player, and if he goes to a really good spot with the good capital, I'm gonna be there on Achane. But it's one of those things where if he's a really good value, I'll really love him. If he's not, then I might not reach for him anymore. But you like Achane too, so go ahead and
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of covered it. I don't want to hit the same points. I mean, I thought obviously with Achane, he has Olympic level speed, and that's going to be what NFL teams love him for. And so, I mean, I honestly, I completely agree with you. If he gets a great landing spot, I'm going to be probably all over. I'll probably be reaching for Achane if he gets the right landing spot. If he doesn't, like honestly, it could very easily be kind of like a James Cook situation where they got this kind of gadget guy and they just don't use him.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, it's gonna be very landing spot dependent, but in the right spot, he could be really, really good. So
yeah.
yeah, honestly, I feel the same way as you. I loved what I saw, but it's like he's gonna play such a specific role in the NFL that it's just gonna depend so much on landing spot. I think.
Yeah.
He's not gonna be a 3 down back.
Yeah, agreed. And now moving into our top 4 guys here who...
Yeah, and to me, these top 4, I feel like locked and loaded on these top 4, especially with us like lining up on our views in these guys too.
Yeah.
Like I feel real confident about it's like tier 1 and tier 2 would be like these 4 guys to me.
Yeah. So we have, just to preface this at the top, all 4 of these guys we have them both ranked exactly the same spots, and we'll start off with Zach Charbonnet, who we both have ranked at 5. And
because we each have a number 4 that the other one ranked extremely
low. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So we both have Charbonnet at 5 here, and man, my comp for him is a literal bowling ball.
Yeah,
because that is Zach Charbonnet's game.
Yeah,
is just a tough MFer. Like, I mean, when you talk about just bouncing off of defenders, like that's what you see when you watch his tape. Like he is just bouncing off of guys and running hard, and You know, he's not the fastest guy. That's my take. You know, he's obviously not got the top end speed. You know, but when you lack that speed, if you have the ability to run guys over like a Derrick Henry, I mean that's the ceiling for Charbonnet, in my opinion, is that Derrick Henry
with better pass catching ability.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So when you look at the ceiling for Charbonnet, and that's the thing with these four guys is you start to look at the ceiling because that it becomes more realistic with these top guys, especially where they get drafted. You know, we're talking about especially with Robinson, Gibbs, those could be late first, early second guys, and Charbonnet and Bigsby, who we have at 3, is going to be right there in terms of probably mid to late second round value, and for running backs nowadays, that's really good. I know we've talked about this, and you've talked about it a lot, how draft capital value and how we look at that is shifting for running backs. So if we get second round capital for Zach Charbonnet, you got to look at what the ceiling could be when you're drafting him, because it could be really, really good.
Yeah, I completely agree. Zach Charbonnet was somebody I didn't know a lot about coming into. I knew he was kind of rising on draft boards. I knew a lot of people were really starting to hype him up. I mean, he's starting to be talked about as kind of the third running back after Bigsby and Gibbs.
Yeah.
He's risen that much, I think. And I think it's just because he played kind of on a team that wasn't great, you know, in the Pac-12. I think he kind of went under the radar for a long time. He was going to come out last year, and I think was really kind of high on boards last year, but then went back to school. Yeah, I mean, I saw incredibly strong through contact, takes multiple hits to bring him down, seeks out contact. So, I mean, over and over again, saying exactly what you said, just absolutely a hammer, like, through the defense. But, like, on top of that, I thought he had great. I mean, I thought he was incredible in the passing game as well.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he had great hands. Like, there's a couple drops, but, like, I thought he was. I mean, he's used as a passing weapon on that UCLA team. So, like, he just really kind of had a full set of tools. And then if he gets to the second layer, I thought he looked incredibly fluid too for like a power kind of running back. I thought he had elusiveness, fluidity in the second layer. So I thought he really had a full set of tools. You know, the only reason I kind of ranked Sean Tucker above him was because I saw something a little bit more exciting in Sean Tucker as far as big chunk plays. Obviously, you didn't even see that one. That one thing that I saw. But that's why I had him a little bit higher. But as far as just a complete kind of, I mean, he feels so safe to me, Charbonnet. Honestly, he feels so safe.
Yeah.
Like I would take I'm personally am probably gonna take a big swing on Tucker first because I see a higher ceiling, but like I see a much higher floor with Charbonnet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, completely agree with you there. Yeah, just a really fun guy to watch, and it's very clear after watching him why he's the biggest riser, I would say, in terms of fantasy prospects so far this year. And next up here at 3, we both have him at 3, and this is a guy that
honestly I think it's a little controversial that we have him at 3 too. A lot of the draft community is lower on him than we are.
Yeah, and you know what? Here we go. Tank Bigsby. The podcast here over the next year will depend on Tank Bigsby's success because of how
credibility has been
how in we are on Tank Bigsby. I know me and you both love him. I loved him coming into the college football season. I liked watching him last year, and then this year just also love watching him. You're obviously a big Auburn fan.
Yeah, I'm an Auburn fan, so I've seen every game. Yeah, so I'll be able to provide some kind of insight to, I think, the things people think are negatives.
Yeah, so you paved the way because this, even though this is my guy, I planted my flag pretty early on him.
You did.
I'll give you your Auburn alum.
Sure. Yeah.
It.
So I'm an Auburn alum. I've watched every Auburn game. I'll say I think a lot of people are down. I will say last year I think Tank Bigsby was probably the locked third running back. That's kind of how I felt. Like I think he was like for sure third after Bijan and Gibbs last year. I think this year people were a little disappointed, but it's like I'll lay out kind of the reasons. I'll say number one, offensive line was absolutely terrible this year. So that's the first thing. I think it's really hard to judge. If you see him getting caught behind the line of scrimmage, like I'm not going to blame that on Bigsby. Like our O-line was absolute trash.
Yeah.
Two, our coach pretty much didn't want to be there from day one because like there was some drama. I'm not going to get into on this podcast. It's not a college football coaching carousel podcast, but he was basically kind of checked out from day one. And so I would look like if you want to watch Bigsby tape, I would watch late in the year Bigsby tape after Cadillac Williams kind of took over.
Yeah.
Because he, for instance, I think like the Ole Miss game, if you can find tape for him against Ole Miss, that I think is a great like 2022 example of like how he is like correctly used. Because I think like Cadillac was kind of coaching by then, and he used Tank like way more than our previous coach was. So that's kind of what I would say as far as to his just detractors. Like I don't think you can bring him down based on this year, given just those kind of factors. But what I would say is I saw patience, which is like so rare. Like to me, it's really rare to see like good like vision and patience in college running backs.
Yeah.
So like that was huge. I only saw this level of patience with Gibbs and Bijan and Tank. So like I saw that like he's so good at finding an open hole. And I would say as soon as he hits the hole, he explodes through it. He is so decisive through the hole. There's none of that like, kind of jumping around behind the line of scrimmage. It's like he picks a hole, runs hard through it.
Yeah.
Absolutely blasts through it. And then on top of that, he's so hard to bring down after.
Absolutely. That's the biggest thing for me is how hard he is to tackle.
Yeah. Those three things combined is just such a good recipe for NFL success, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and just to add on, because why not continue the love train for Tank Bigsby, is just I saw very quick cuts. I thought he had pretty quick cuts. He's once again another guy not afraid to be physical, like at all.
Oh, he's so physical. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, it's they like the passing game. I think personally, from what I saw, I don't really have it in terms of can he catch the ball and would he be good in it? We didn't see it. I'm perfectly comfortable saying that he'll be okay as a passer.
I think so too. I think every time he's been used, he looks really good.
Yeah.
He's not used a ton, but I think when he's used, he looks good.
And it helps having decisiveness and all those traits he has. So for me, it was really tough finding something that was wrong with Tank Bigsby. Whereas I think maybe the only thing is he's not as fast as the other two guys that we're going to be talking about next.
Yeah.
So when I was watching him and I was trying to figure out like a pro comp for him and I just couldn't figure it out, and I was thinking and then I went back and I watched some old Penn State tape of Miles Sanders, and Tank Bigsby kind of reminds me of Miles Sanders, but maybe a little bit slower. Which is very funny because the first 2 years Miles Sanders came out, I was not a fan of Miles Sanders. I thought people were overvaluing him. But like over the last year and a half, I really turned on Miles Sanders. I thought Miles Sanders was
great this year.
Really good running back, really good value. I think people
that's a good comp. I think
people were taking him too high, but I think Miles Sanders is a pretty good comp. That's my comp for him. And
no, I like that.
And now we've got the top two, the proverbial tier one, and we'll start with Jahmyr Gibbs, even though everyone knows it's Gibbs and Robinson, but we'll start with Gibbs at 2, and I
think it's important to say that I went in like I was purposely willing to rank somebody above these guys, rank Gibbs over Bijan, whatever, and I think I saw pretty much what everybody says they see. So, like, these guys are pretty good, and I have them in the order we have them. So,
yeah. So, as the Alabama guy now, you were the Auburn guy.
Yeah. No, feel free.
I'll take Jahmyr Gibbs here. I really like Gibbs. I think he's probably he's amazing in space. He's very elusive. He's got amazing acceleration after cuts. Like he can his accelerate like his pickup speed is great. Like I kind of see the same thing out of like Jordan Addison, a receiver, with Gibbs. So I think Gibbs is going to be a really good pass catching back, and I know your comp to him is Kamara. I view him like Aaron Jones esque. I think both of those guys are pass catching backs that are
both
also
great fantasy running backs.
Yeah. So, and you're going to get those big plays. That's the thing with Gibbs is when he gets the ball, he can be so elusive. And the only problem with him I see is it's going to be hard for him to break tackles in the NFL. It seemed like he was kind of struggling when he was getting wrapped up at times.
Yeah, his size isn't like amazing.
Yeah. So that I don't really like. And then I also don't think
I said the exact same thing. That he's not as strong after first contact compared to like when I watched Bijan.
But once again, even that with the tools he has, as how elusive he is, that's not necessarily going to be an issue
if he
works on it. So yeah, I don't think he's going to break that many tackles in the NFL. I don't think he's going to put himself in a situation where he's going to get tackled that often because of how elusive he is. So I like the guy. And then once again with the size, not going to be a goal line back. Maybe won't get those in between the 5 carries that someone like a Dalvin Cook would normally get. The bigger guy. So to me, those are the only two things: is the breaking tackles and the goal line use. We'll see. I don't see them using. He could be switched out for another guy, depending on where he goes. But really like Gibbs. I think he's a great player. And I'll let you talk about him now.
Yeah. I think honestly, I had a lot of the same notes, which makes me feel like a little bit better about my running back scouting abilities that we have. That we're like, so some of these guys we saw the same things.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I thought he looks like he gets like 5 or 10 yards, like literally every time he touches the ball. Like it's just incredible. I'd say the biggest kind of takeaway for me was that, I would say I was kind of trying to move from the 102 to the 101, just kind of from what I've heard. I think I'm pretty comfortable taking Gibbs, given what people are charging to get Bijan. Honestly, like if you get Alvin Kamara or Aaron Jones, like, are you not happy with that? Like that's like that's like an RB1 for like 3 or 4 years. Like that's very good. Mm-hmm. Like and like you never really know how these situations can turn out. Like and I think Bijan's going to get more wear and tear than Gibbs is going to get. So yeah. So I mean, I would not hate taking Gibbs over Bijan. It's going to depend on landing spot, obviously. Like the landing spot with the Bucks that we mocked the other day was like less than, amazing.
Yeah.
So.
And I will say, Gibbs was really good this year. If it looked as if he wasn't as good as he may have had flashes the previous year, Alabama's offensive line took a fairly decent step down in terms of what they normally are too. So the fact that he still looked good as one of the better players along with Bryce Young, because there really wasn't too much other talent on that offense this year. So he did look the part, even despite, being in a worse situation than previous years. But on to the number one here. To no surprise, Bijan Robinson out of Texas, the new best prospect since Saquon, as everyone's saying. It's almost hard when you have a player like this to do like evaluations for, because you just like go down the checklist and you go, okay, he's great at this, great at this.
Yeah, he just kind of does everything great.
He does everything great. So, if we don't talk about Bijan Robinson as much as some of these other guys, just know it's because there's not much to talk about that no one else has already said. So we'd rather focus on telling you why we think Tank Bigsby is awesome, because maybe some other people, don't share that sentiment. But
right.
But yeah, I mean, he's got such a.
He's like a Madden create a running back.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like just put 99 in every trait.
He's got a really low center of gravity. Amazing balance. Can shed blocks. He can bounce off people. He can cut. He's quick. He's fat. He's everything that's good about a running back. He's great. So if you have the 101, you're getting Bijan. If you don't, you're not. I mean, that it's as simple as that. I saw him as like Ezekiel Elliott. I don't know.
My comp was Le'Veon Bell when he was like the best player in the NFL.
That's a good comp. That's a good comp. I mean, the vision that you get, that patience that you talked about, like
that's what I was. Yeah,
Le'Veon Bell had the best patience of any back. So you kind of see that with Bijan. So I agree there.
I mean, the jump cut like in the hole.
Yeah.
That Le'Veon could do, just to be able to like jump cut at the line of scrimmage around blockers is like, I mean, that's like
few and far between.
Yeah.
So that's gonna do it.
He's really good.
Yeah. I mean, it really is tough when you have those guys. You know, thankfully, next week when we talk about receivers, there isn't
There's
really
not
that
like
guy.
a clear cut. Yeah, it's not nearly as clear cut. So I think it'll be interesting. I will say, to add to it, I'm gonna throw out kind of what I think, kind of based on our talking, kind of how we would tier these guys. To me, I think we'd say Bijan and Gibbs tier 1.
Yep.
I think we'd put Bigsby and Charbonnet in tier 2. To me, I think the next 4 are kind of all tier 3, just kind of based on where we have them. What do you think?
Yeah, so we got Devon Achane, Zach Evans, Sean Tucker, Israel Abanikanda. I would put Kendre Miller in that tier.
Sure, I think that's fair. So I think that's a big tier 3 with those. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And then after
those 5 guys are a big tier 3.
You have Chase Brown.
We've basically got some
Chase Brown, Roschon Johnson, and Kenny McIntosh, I would say, are
and honestly, we didn't really like any of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, not as much. Those are
not as much. I think like my guy in that group is Roschon.
Yeah,
and then
I would even say
like Chase Brown.
I would even say that the guy that we didn't talk about, who
that's probably your dart throw guy.
Yeah, so we'll have sleepers here.
Okay, cool.
Going forward, after we finish these rankings, we'll be doing the combine right after we finish tight ends, and then after that, we'll do a sleeper. So if we didn't talk about some of the guys, then don't worry. We're gonna leave out some of the receivers too, because it's just gonna be impossible to talk about them all. But we'll be doing a sleepers episode where we'll talk about some of these other guys too. Even though there aren't
saying basically after Kendre Miller, we would say kind of pick your guy. Kind of who's your dart throw? Who's your dart throw sleeper guy after that? Because I think we'd pretty much say after that tier 3. I mean, these are third round probably picks, right?
Yeah, day 3 picks.
Well, third round rookie draft.
Yeah, third. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's gonna be like a dart throw type of guy. So
yeah,
cool. Yeah.
Yep. So that's gonna do it for us. Wherever you're watching or listening, leave a like, follow, do all that fun stuff, and you could follow us on Twitter. Tweet at us any questions you have. We're gonna be breaking down wide receivers next week, and we're recording this on the Super Bowl Sunday. So everyone, hope you have had a good Super Bowl Sunday. That's going to do it for us here today, and peace out.